The work of our brain occurs around the clock. It is the central control center, and even at night, it puts the body to sleep while continuing to oversee all processes, process incoming information, coordinate the functioning of the heart, lungs, and circulatory system, as well as perform many other functions. Without the normal functioning of the brain, there can be no talk of health. But here's what's strange. We all know that the brain is very important, but we don't really think about its health. Day by day, our habits, both harmful and seemingly harmless ones, slowly but surely harm our brain. And today, I suggest discussing precisely such habits. Perhaps some of them will be completely unexpected for you. Watch the video to the end. Take care of your health. Subscribe to the channel to not miss new episodes. Let's get started. Lack of water, undoubtedly. Water is necessary for every organ in our body, but the brain, being one of the first, feels the lack of water. It uses water microtubules to transmit its messages, nerve impulses. With a water deficit, brain cells begin to dry out and shrink, disrupting the transmission of impulses. As a result, our memory suffers, attention span decreases during mental work or study. Rapid fatigue sets in. Research shows that when a person loses just 2% of body weight in fluid, it becomes more difficult for them to solve problems or focus on any action. Sleep deprivation, if the brain is not given rest, it starts processing information worse, building neural connections, and flushing out toxins. With insufficient sleep, our thinking slows down, concentration deteriorates, and new knowledge does not consolidate. The harm from sleep deprivation is cumulative. Sleep deficiency leads to the death of brain cells, and this can threaten us not only with mood deterioration, but also with severe headaches, as well as problems with memory and even hormonal imbalance. Moreover, recent studies show that sleep deprivation can actually shrink the brain. That's why hours of sleep are the minimum necessary for brain health. Consuming a large amount of sugar also requires special attention. We were taught from childhood that the brain needs glucose. In reality, white sugar is not needed by the brain and is even harmful. Consumption of fast carbohydrates causes a spike in blood sugar levels, which negatively affects our health. Glucose oxidizes blood vessels and brain cells, causing premature aging of this important organ, the brain. It can actually derive nourishment from certain fatty acids as well as ketones formed during the breakdown of fats. Currently, more and more studies are suggesting that a mixed diet, partly glucose and partly ketones, is more beneficial for brain activity. For the same reason, overeating is harmful, as it also leads to an increase in blood sugar levels. It has been proven that constant overeating and excess weight contribute to premature brain aging in young people. Mild stress helps us pull ourselves together and focus on solving a problem, but only if it's mild and short-term. However, chronic stress is very dangerous for the central organ of our body and can cause a series of changes that trigger mental disorders. People living in a state of chronic stress or having experienced serious psychological trauma often report worsened memory and attention, irritability, a slight tendency to anxiety, and increased sensitivity to details. This is natural since stress negatively impacts the brain and can physically alter it. During stress, the adrenal glands release cortisol, which is a sort of hammer for the brain. With prolonged exposure, cortisol damages brain regions responsible for memory, attention, decision-making, and planning. Additionally, emotional centers are affected. Sensitivity to dopamine pleasure centers increases, which contributes to the emergence of various addictions. Sedentary lifestyle. The results of a study conducted by the University of California show that people leading a sedentary lifestyle suffer from thinning of the brain tissue responsible for memory. The results of this study indicate that even physical exercises cannot compensate for the damage caused to the brain by prolonged sitting in a chair during the workday. To address this situation, it is necessary to reduce sitting periods. This can be achieved by walking more often, performing tasks while standing, and, in general, moving as much as possible. Oxygen deprivation. If the brain does not receive an adequate amount of oxygen, its activity slows down significantly. Oxygen deficiency often occurs when the air is polluted or the room we are in is rarely ventilated. The tricky part is that we often do not notice the problem until a certain point, during which the brain loses its activity. Additionally, when we sleep and cover our heads, the amount of oxygen entering the body decreases as we breathe in air that has been processed and enriched with carbon dioxide. Working during illness also negatively affects brain activity, as the body uses all its resources to fight the illness while working. There is a risk of encountering oxygen deprivation, information overload, constant news reading, engagement on social media, and online learning all lead to brain overload. It has been found that even entertaining information that we receive to relax also fatigues our brain. According to scientists, the brain can process about 74 GB of data per day, and a larger volume leads to strain, memory problems, nervous system issues, and hormonal imbalances. In addition to this, we pay a lot of attention to messages and notifications that we have to respond to throughout the day, constantly forcing our brain into multitasking mode, which also exhausts it. For example, one study showed that when we try to focus on a specific task but know there is an unread email, our concentration decreases by 10 points. The use of headphones. Prolonged headphone use suppresses the brain. With constant and extended use of headphones, disruptions occur in the central nervous system's function. Headaches, poor memory, insomnia, irritability, distractibility, and more. The harm from headphone use in this case is not only acoustic. Wireless devices also radiate the brain, albeit much less than a cell phone held to the ear. Interaction with screens. People increasingly prefer online communication. The bright rays emitted by gadget screens affect the brain and disrupt sleep, while lack of sleep leads to impaired attention, memory, and mental disorders. Just 10 minutes of real-life interaction improve memory and cognitive functions. Thus, on the contrary, lack of communication limits brain function. Lack of stimulus and development. The brain requires constant development. Without new stimuli, connections do not form, and overall brain performance decreases. Therefore, instead of watching television, it's better to read a book, solve crosswords, or play chess. These activities greatly stimulate brain development. New activities, changing environments, and of course, physical exercises are also beneficial. And the last problem, which cannot be ignored, is smoking, alcohol consumption, and drug use. All of these things are very harmful to the body, and the brain is no exception. Under the influence of these habits, the destruction of our main command center accelerates significantly, and the consequences can be very serious. Was this video helpful for you? What do you disagree with? Share in the comments. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. This was the Health in Your Hands channel.